So how exactly do you set goals? This was probably one of the biggest questions I had at the beginning of 2020 when I started my goal setting journey and wanted to start developing a goal setting system so that I could set goals, achieve goals, and be successful in maintaining those goals. This system is incredibly simple. I think it's actually overly simple to the point where I didn't actually think I was going to show it because it wasn't that elaborate, but sometimes I think the most simple systems are the most effective. So hopefully this could maybe help someone who's new to goal setting, who has no idea what to do, because that's where I was about 4 months ago. There are two main cogs in the wheel that is my goal setting system that I want to introduce before I go into my specific steps for goal setting. The first one on the left here is my journal. I go really in depth into this journal and everything I do in it in my journal setup video, so I will direct you there if you want more information. This is essentially my daily journal where I write longhand stream of consciousness in. I also do visioning exercises, and it's also really important for my goal setting. On the right side here, we have my bullet journal. I consider myself a bit of a bullet journal minimalist. I really love doing simple, intentional, black and white, pen-only spreads in this journal, and I am always changing up my journal and trying to tweak it so it is the best possible productivity tool for me. Before I can start setting monthly goals, I need to kind of have an idea of what aspirations and milestones that I would like to achieve in the year. And considering that everyone is mostly in isolation as of now, trying to create goals really far into the future can be really difficult. So right now, instead of focusing on 3, 5, or even 1-year goals, I have kind of lowered my expectations and just focused my goals on the timeline of the next 6 months. I was able to flesh out what my vision for the next 6 months was by doing a visioning exercise from the Rise podcast. However, I think there's many of these types of exercises available, and you can just do whichever one works for you, as long as you've created a vision for your more ideal or even a more progressed version of yourself. This is a really important step before you actually start the goal setting monthly, because it gives you a direction and a purpose for why you're actually setting goals. I like to initiate the goal setting process about 2 to 3 days before the beginning of the new month. The reason I like to do that is my mind works in a very sporadic way. I kind of have ideas pop into my head over random ranges of time. So if I give myself about 2 to 3 days to kind of marinate on my goals and what things I want to do, I find that that gives me more time to actually think up goals I want to do and not forget anything. Once I've given myself about 1 to 2 days to think about my goals, I like to sit down in my journal and reflect on what goals I want to set for the upcoming month. Before I write down anything, I like to start each reflection with the category of goal that I want to reflect on. I divide my goal setting into 4 categories because it helps give me a little bit of structure without making it so structured that it feels constraining. My categories for my goal setting are finances, friends and family, which is mostly focused on relationship building, fitness, which is both physical fitness as well as physical wellness, and for me, which is mental wellness as well as something fun I can do for myself during the month. I don't like to make my goal setting too serious because it takes the fun out of it, or at least that's what I find. Once I write the title of the goal category, I go in and very roughly write down what I kind of want to accomplish in the month. For example, under the friends and family section, in case you can't read my cursive, I wrote, in terms of family, I think it would be fun to have one family adventure, maybe to a certain location, I'm not gonna say, if that's possible. I find by writing out my goals or things I want to do during the month in kind of longhand stream of consciousness, it removes the barrier of pressure from goal setting and allows me to kind of just write things that come to mind. Once I go through and write down each reflection and goal brainstorm for each category, I go in with the same pen and I actually underline things that I want to create into goals. So as I mentioned with the family adventure that I want to go on, As you can see here, I've underlined fam adventure, and this just makes it a little easier to find the goals that I want to write down when I go into actually writing out the goals in a more structured form. I know this part seems like the most wishy-washy in terms of exactly what I do. What you write down really just depends on what you've kind of visioned for yourself and set out for yourself, and having a purpose and a more progressive or idealized version of yourself does kind of help give you direction when writing out your thoughts. And then one thing I did want to mention in this is under the For Me category, I know goal setting can be very serious sometimes and very focused on career advancement or, saving up for that car you want to buy. But I do actually recommend in one of your goals, writing down 3 fun things you'd like to do for yourself that month. This month, I said I want to bake 1 new dessert, hike in a new place, and go for a beach boardwalk. Once I have my goal journaling out of the way, I like to take my bullet journal out and start doing the more formal goal setting process in there. Of course, you can take out whatever planner or notebook that you have on hand, but I do like to do this in my bullet journal. If you're curious about this monthly layout, I do have a setup video, but something I did this month that's new and that I really love for this method is having a focus or a goal section on the page with my calendar. I've always had a lot of blank space on this page because I do a vertical calendar that only really takes up 1 page, and this just fit in perfectly, and it makes the entire monthly calendar system flow really well, especially when it comes to goals. So now the goal setting part begins. I take my bullet journal and I put it next to my actual journal, and I look at the items I've underlined under each category. Then I go category by category, writing down the title of each category and then writing down the goals that I want to do that month. Sometimes I number them, but I never like to give myself a set amount of goals to achieve in each category. I then leave a space in between each category, so it kind of gives them a bit of separation, and I go down and I write down all of the goals in each category until the list is complete. The important thing here is to not stop once you've written down your goals, because if you've just written down that you want to consistently track your finances and spending, and you don't write down how you're going to actually do that, it's probably not going to be accomplished unless you have the willpower of Bruce Willis. This is where the bullet journal system is really helpful for goal setting, because in the next step, I take the goals that I want to do and I actually turn to my tasks and notes page. This is where I look at each goal individually and I write down a list of action items or just tasks that I can do during the month in order to get closer to accomplishing that goal. Now, you can do a normal task list, but I find that using the Alastair method task list is really well suited to this method. Instead of a normal task list where you have a list of items going all the way down the page, the Alastair method uses columns in order to categorize your list. What that means for a monthly to-do list is that you have a category or a column for each week of the month. I also give myself a category on the far left-hand corner for a non-week specific task. Beside that, I do 1, 8, 15, and 22 because these are the first Monday of each week. So let's go back to the goal to consistently track my finances and spending. Now, when I was thinking about this goal, I thought that a good way to hold myself accountable would be to sit down every week and update my finances on my finance spreadsheet. Now, I have the memory of a grasshopper, so in order for me to remember to do that, I wrote on my task list, update finances, and I made a task dot on each column of each week of the month. So now, when I go to check my monthly spread at the beginning of each week so I can write down my task list, I'll be able to look here and see, okay, it's the first week of the month, I need to update my finances. Then, once I've done that, I can cross it off, but I'm still prompted every week following that to do the same task, so it doesn't just fall by the wayside after 1 week. I do hope that made sense, but if you guys want a separate video going over the Alastair method, I can definitely do that for you. Then I'll just go in and I'll go down the list of goals and I'll think of some action items for each one. I do want to add that not every goal will have specific tasks that need to be done with it. One example that I do want to mention is under fitness, one of my goals is to take vitamins daily. I don't actually have a task partnered with this, but instead what I decided to do was I added vitamins into my habit tracker. I just find that this is a much more effective way to hold myself accountable for this goal, because I have to write down if I take my vitamins every day, which is going to help me actually be consistent with it instead of writing a to-do list item. Of course, you can definitely do that if you want to. It just depends on what you think will work best for yourself. And that is actually all that I do every month in order to set goals. As I said earlier, it's very, very simple, but I find starting in the journal and kind of fleshing out your ideas and then taking that into your journal and adding a bit more structure and action to it makes it a really effective way to set up yourself for success and to make it really easy to know exactly what you need to do to achieve your goals during the month. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you have any questions or maybe suggestions for how I could even improve my method, I would love to hear them below. I hope you are all safe right now and you're doing well, and I will see you guys in the next video. Over and out.